The real contribution of the Kennan Institute and the series of lectures sponsored by the Jackson Foundation has been the emphasis on practitioners and not simply the abstract issue of human rights. The impact that we've had is that we simply haven't relied on what we've presented at the conference. We've published reports, we've taken the speakers to different policy makers, whether they be in government or in NGOs, and we really have shown what a new generation of human rights activists look like in Russia. So I think we've really had a very important impact on policymakers by exposing them to the next generation of human rights activists.
We've managed to focus on the issues that really now people, I think, understand are the biggest ones in the world. Power, no matter how you measure it, economic power, military power, nuclear proliferation, the biggest impacts on climate, whatever it is, all concentrated in the Asia Pacific because the biggest economies are there, the biggest militaries are there. So these are the big issues, and we just happen to be focused uniquely on it. And I know Scoop would be absolutely riveted today as this, simply as we see it, as the greatest challenge facing the United States in its foreign relations.
Climate change really is probably one of the most important issues that we as humans, as a human race, face right now. And our time to make the changes that are needed in order for us to preserve our planet as we know it is growing fairly limited. So I have been very grateful to the Jackson Foundation for its willingness to invest in climate, in understanding climate change, its dedication to always looking for innovation and for looking for the ways to convene the right people and leverage the results of their funding, but also of the work of their grantees.
One of the brand new programs that we started this year is training for state legislators on working across the aisle in civil discourse. And it was done through a partnership and collaboration with the Jackson Foundation. And we responded to what's going on in the other Washington, D.C., and thought about how much is needed to build relationships between people who are coming from different places and different political perspectives, but want to make things work in Washington State. And it really came from a legislator who came to us and expressed the need to do this as a young first session legislator. And we talked it over as partners with the Jackson Foundation and found the resources and the programming to make it happen. And I really appreciate that kind of partnership. It's rare that a funder and an organization can work together truly in collaborative partnership to respond to needs of our state with regard to public policy and civil discourse and the values that we really hold together.
Well, one of the main reasons why our students choose to major in international studies is they want to be involved in the real world. Foreign service, various aspects of government employment, NGOs, nonprofits that are involved globally continue to be really the popular places for our students to seek employment. In our curriculum, the task forces provide a hands-on experience for our students to tackle a pressing issue, a foreign policy issue that faces our government. And in these classes, they try to research and come up with really practical, real-world solutions to this problem.
Well, one thing that I think is difficult to overstate is how fundamental the support of the Jackson Foundation has been to our center's activities and operations from our very inception. We wouldn't exist today, it's safe to say, if it weren't for the very generous endowment of the Helen H. Jackson Chair in 2008, which served as a springboard for the creation of the center. And when I say the springboard, what that made possible for us was the creation of an institution that now has been able to attract private funds from a host of different sources. So we now administer, for example, 2 endowed funds for students. In addition to the Helen Jackson Chair, we administer a range of grants on different program areas. We have 4 different program areas. All of them are supported through private funds. So the Helen Jackson Chair was the key tipping point, or the key thing that made it possible for us to say there's enough support for human rights at the University of Washington for us to create a new institution to house this activity, and then to use that new institution to attract private funds to expand that activity. And we're continuing to do that. In fact, we're growing by leaps and bounds. None of that would be possible without that original investment, which was so strategic in leveraging other support.
The Jackson Fellowships have a lasting legacy for the foundation. Students are so well aware of the accomplishments in the leadership of Senator Jackson in environmental policy and creating a better, more healthful, livable environment for our citizens. And they uphold the values, they feel the responsibility to uphold the values of Senator Jackson throughout their whole career. And it's left a lasting legacy for the senator.
So for me, it's amazing to be connected to the legacy of Henry Jackson and what he did, both not only for the environment nationally, but for the state of Washington. And I hope to carry that legacy forward in my work in policy in either Oregon or Washington.
Our second and very important mission is to prepare the next generation. And so we pull in, and have now hundreds in our alumni group, young people, undergraduates and graduates, in the Henry M. Jackson internship and fellows programs. They've been going on for 24 years. 25th next year, and it's an amazing group. They're all over the place. They're in government, they're in industry, they're around the country, overseas, and that's just spectacular.
Our partnership with the foundation has really not only helped transform these kids' lives and their families, but it's been transformative for the Institute as well. It pulls together these threads of public lands, national parks, of leadership, of public service, and move those forward to a new place.
Well, I was very excited when we received a call from the foundation asking if we had any interest at the laboratory in looking at global climate change and national security. And lo and behold, we had just held this fabulous meeting looking especially at that intersection. So it was this great opportunity for us to find a partnership with what I consider to be an anchor organization, and that's the Jackson Foundation. And that partnership is so valuable for the region, for the nation, and for our laboratory as well in terms of how we see our future in the region and in Washington State.
So the Henry M. Jackson Foundation has played a very significant role in the growth and frankly the birth of One World Now. The Henry M. Jackson Foundation was the very first grant that One World Now received back in 2002 for $10,000. And for us at the time, that $10,000 grant was like receiving $1 million grant. It really kicked off the program. Several of our alum are all over the world working either at the State Department, working at internships in U.S. embassies abroad, starting up companies in China, working for multinational firms in Singapore. These are just some concrete examples of some of the great things that our alumni are doing. And this is exactly what this program is about, in teaching them Arabic, Chinese, leadership skills at this critical age, shifting the trajectory of their lives, and getting them to continue on this path of international education and public service, frankly, putting their leadership skills to use and representing in the world. It's very, very exciting to see.